For centuries, people have wondered about one of the greatest mysteries in all of history, the missing years of Jesus Christ. Between the age of 12, when he amazed the teachers in the temple, and 30, when he began his public ministry, the Bible falls completely silent. That is nearly 18 years missing from the story of the most important man to ever walk the earth. Where was he? What was he doing? And why does the Bible not say a single word about that time? Most of us simply accept that those years are lost, but in the far mountains of East Africa, a different story is told. A story preserved for thousands of years in one of the oldest and most mysterious Bibles in the world, the Ethiopian Bible. Ethiopia holds a special place in Christian history. Long before Europe embraced Christianity, Ethiopia had already declared it as the official religion of its empire. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church remains one of the oldest Christian institutions in the world, tracing its roots directly to the time of the apostles. What sets it apart is not just its age, but its sacred texts. The Ethiopian Bible is far older and far larger than the Western Bible. While most Christians read 66 books, the Ethiopian Bible contains over 81, including ancient writings long removed from the Western canon, books like Enoch, Jubilees, the Shepherd of Hamas, and the Book of the Covenant. And within these texts lies a version of the story that Western Christianity has long forgotten. They speak of a Jesus whose skin was dark, whose hair was like wool, and whose wisdom came not just from the heavens but from the deep roots of Africa. Ethiopian tradition claims that Jesus may have traveled through their land during his so-called missing years. It is said that he came seeking wisdom, understanding the ways of the old prophets, and communing with those who still kept the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest built by Moses to hold the presence of God. Ethiopian scholars point to ancient records that tell of a mysterious young teacher from the north who appeared in Aksum and other holy cities, performing miracles, healing the sick, and speaking of a new kingdom not of this world. Could this have been Jesus? The Ethiopian Bible, unlike the Western versions, preserves the ancient connection between Israel and Ethiopia through the story of the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. When Sheba visited Solomon, she received great wisdom and returned to her land pregnant with Solomon's son, Menelik I. Menelik is said to have carried the Ark of the Covenant from Jerusalem to Ethiopia, where it remains hidden to this day in the holy city of Aksum. According to Ethiopian prophecy, the land that holds the Ark will one day be visited by the true Messiah. If that is true, then Jesus, during his missing years, could have journeyed to Ethiopia, to pray before the Ark, to study the writings of Enoch, and to prepare for his divine mission. When Jesus later began his ministry, his teachings were unlike anything the people had ever heard. He spoke with authority, revealing truths that had been hidden since the foundation of the world. Could that deep understanding have come from the lost books of Enoch and Jubilees that only the Ethiopians preserved? The Book of Enoch, still found in the Ethiopian Bible, describes visions of heaven, the fall of angels, and the coming of a Son of Man who would bring salvation to the earth. Jesus himself quoted from Enoch multiple times, though Western Bibles no longer include it. How could he have known such detailed passages unless he had studied them directly? Ethiopia's version of Christianity also preserves a deeper, more mystical understanding of Jesus' divine nature. Their texts describe him as a being of both heaven and earth, the Word made flesh who bridges the divine and the human. They see him not as a foreign savior from distant lands, but as one of their own, a teacher who walked the soil of Africa, who understood the struggles of his people and who came to unite all nations under one truth. And then there is the matter of appearance. Early Ethiopian and Coptic Christian art portrays Jesus with dark brown or black skin, woolly hair, and African features. These depictions were made centuries before European influence arrived, which means they were not political or cultural statements, they were historical memories. The people painted what they saw, and what had been passed down from generation to generation. Even ancient Roman and Byzantine records describe early Christians from Judea and Egypt as dark-skinned people. It is no secret that the region of the Bible, stretching from modern-day Egypt through Israel, Ethiopia, and the Arabian Peninsula, has always been populated by people of color. So it should not be shocking that Jesus looked more African or Middle Eastern than Western depictions show. But what's truly fascinating is how Ethiopia connects this truth to the missing years. In their writings, it is said that the young Jesus received sacred training from priests and mystics of the Old Order. He learned the language of the stars, the secret names of God, and the divine patterns of creation. These teachings, they say, were the foundation of the miracles he later performed, walking on water, healing the blind, and raising the dead. They were not tricks, but the use of divine laws known only to the pure in heart. This story also connects to the legends of Jesus' travels through Egypt and India. Some ancient records claim he journeyed through the Nile Valley, visiting temples and studying the ancient mysteries of light and life. If Ethiopia's records are true, it would mean Jesus' journey went even farther, that he reached the land of Sheba, where he was recognized by the keepers of the ark as the fulfillment of an ancient promise. When he returned to Galilee and began his ministry, he carried a power and wisdom that astonished everyone who heard him. The priests in the temple marveled, asking, "Where did this man get such knowledge?" But perhaps the answer lies in the scrolls and temples of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Bible was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to preserve what others would later lose. The truth that God has planned was never confined to one nation or one people. Ethiopia's scriptures remind the world that God's light has always shone across all lands, and that his Son walked among many nations before returning home. Today, the Ark of the Covenant is said to rest in a small chapel in Aksum, guarded by a single monk who has devoted his entire life to protecting it. No one else is allowed to see it. Yet, for the Ethiopian people, the Ark is more than a relic. It is a sign that God has not abandoned his people. And if Jesus truly came to that land, then Ethiopia was not just a footnote in biblical history. It was part of the divine story itself. The missing years of Jesus might not be missing at all. They might simply be written in a different tongue, preserved by those who never let the truth fade. The Ethiopian Bible holds stories that the world still struggles to believe, yet every page echoes a deeper reality, that God's truth cannot be destroyed, only hidden until the right time. So maybe Jesus' 18 silent years were never silent. Maybe he was preparing, learning, and walking among the very people who would one day protect his story. And perhaps that's why, even today, the oldest Christian traditions are found not in Europe, but in Africa. The truth about his missing years may be stranger than we imagine, and the picture of Jesus we have known might not just be incomplete, it might be entirely rewritten by the light of the oldest Bible on earth. Because somewhere in the hills of Ethiopia, guarded by monks, written in ancient GEZ script, lies the truth that the world tried to forget. A truth that Jesus was more connected to Africa than history has ever admitted. And that truth might just change everything we think we know about the Son of God.